Sue, my tripod, it's not working. I might need to get.
But it just confuses people. A big difference, actually. Sex is biological, gender is the stereotypes based on the sex. But, yeah. Okay, sorry, what? Are you okay?
No, it's not working.
Yeah, no,
It's not letting me. It just won't let me do it. So I might just get someone to hold it. It's just not letting me put it that way.
Because on the settings, remember how you had to put, oh, that's an iPhone, isn't it? I don't know.
You know, even when I do that, it just tells me not to do it. No. Yeah, but I can't.
Oh, okay. Can't turn that around.
Do you have the handheld thing?
Oh, well, no, it's here. There's a few printed out. Like,
I'll just use that instead. Forget about that tripod. Thank you. Sorry about all this wobbling around.
Oh, is there?
Can I get someone that I'm talking to say this and then I'll come and take it off the right bus? You don't have to, I can ask someone else. Okay. We'll be starting momentarily.
It's just that I can only cope
No, I know.
with my speech. Will someone else hold it for me?
Hopefully, yes. It's just that my phone isn't cooperating.
what do you need?
Someone to hold this. I can't use my tripod.
How come?
Because I can't turn this that way. So, and this won't let me rotate.
Do you want to shoot it in landscape?
Yeah, but it won't let me.
Okay.
It just won't let me. No, it doesn't work. But
Orientation is locked.
yeah, even when I unlock it, it's the same thing.
Oh, so your phone's being weird.
So you just need to hold it. Just hold it that way.
Can I just have a look at that to see if I can wrap my brain around?
That is broken and it won't let you go that way because I've had to, it just won't.
Yeah, I just want to understand it.
We better get started, I think.
Yeah, where's the microphone? Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Worked and then it stopped.
Hello, hello. Good morning, Brisbane. Good morning. Welcome to our speaking event. Thank you so much for everyone who's turned up. It's amazing to see you all. It wasn't that long ago that we didn't have too many who were willing to come out to do this kind of thing. So to see more and more people coming out is really great. I want to use my platform today to shine a light on the treatment that we receive as women speaking by the Queensland Police Service. With honour we serve is their motto, but who do you serve? Queensland police officers often tell us, women, that the men who turn up regularly to threaten and intimidate and harass us are doing nothing wrong, and that they have every right to do that. This is their exact words to us. We've been told by police officers and council people that we, the women, are the ones who are being aggressive. And when we ask for proof of our so-called aggression, we get radio silence. We often get no replies from the people in authority when we ask for how to go forward with our speaking events, knowing that there is a group of violent men who want to attack us and shut us down. All we are asking for, as tax-paying members of society, is to be taken seriously when we feel that we are in danger from male violence. We don't think that's too much to ask. Why do so many women that I know, myself included, have stories and experiences of being treated totally unfairly and with contempt by the Queensland Police Service, specifically the male police officers? Now, this is my hypothesis, and we know through research that frequent consumption of porn, particularly violent or degrading content, can reduce men's empathy towards women's experiences of abuse, which is my opinion, what is contributing to the dismissive responses from male police officers when women report male violence. The male Queensland police officers aren't a magical subset of pure good men. The Queensland Police Service is made up of normal human beings, normal men. We know that upwards of 90% of Australian men consume porn regularly. The Queensland police officers are no different from your average man. Pornography often objectifies women or depicts them in submissive, coercive or degrading situations, which has normalised harmful attitudes towards us women. Men who regularly view porn are more likely to endorse rape myths, such as believing that women secretly desire abuse, and are less likely to intervene in sexual assault scenarios. This extends, I believe, to professional contexts where male police officers, approximately 72% of Queensland sworn officers are male, may unconsciously or otherwise minimise the severity of our reports of violence. I believe the prevalence of porn consumption among men suggests a potential widespread influence on their attitudes towards us, particularly if they consume violent content. Porn is the scourge of our time.
Yes, yeah.
At our last speaking event, the usual group of aggressive men turned up to intimidate us, meters away from us, shouting and threatening us. They turned up with a brass band. When I asked a male police officer if he was going to move them on so we could speak in peace, he told me I was being silly. Women from this group have been physically attacked by men, and the police officers have turned a blind eye time and time again. It is my opinion, given all of the experiences I have witnessed and listening to women who have dealt with Queensland Police, that women are seen as less than human by the men who are put in the position, paid to protect us. I find it highly laughable that the Queensland Police Service emphasise values like community safety, integrity and accessibility. Significant links have been found between violent porn use and attitudes supporting verbal aggression towards women, which could manifest, I believe, in police officers dismissing or trivialising women's reports of abuse. I experienced this when I was pregnant last time, after I was verbally harassed up close and in public in broad daylight by one of Brisbane's worst transvestites. I was actually told by the police officer to come back when he gave me a black eye. Those were his exact words. That's the first time I saw firsthand the disgusting attitude of male police officers in the Queensland Police Service when it came to male violence against women and their preference for protecting male perpetrators, and I knew that I could never trust these uniformed men. And this isn't just my opinion. One woman whose experience I heard recently was in a relationship with a police officer who was extremely psychologically abusive and coercive. She tried to report her abuser and the revenge porn that she discovered he had been posting against her consent, but found that she was met with a boys' club where they all protected each other. She says she could count the times that she's come into contact with a decent male police officer on less than one hand, and I agree with that sentiment. Repeated exposure to porn, which often pairs arousal with dominance or aggression, can rewire men's perceptions, making violence against women seem less serious or even normal. And this is compounded, I believe, by the fact that men with pre-existing hostile attitudes towards women, and we've all come across these men, many of us standing here have experienced the awful attitudes from male police officers when we complain about male violence towards us. These women-hating men are more susceptible to porn's effects, which leads them to ignoring us or not taking our report seriously, and we've had enough. This has, in my opinion, created a systemic issue within the police force where women reporting male violence often encounter skepticism or inaction, as officers' non-existent empathy, which has been shaped by their habitual exposure to objectifying or violent content of women. This undermines their ability to respond appropriately when we're in danger. The correlation between porn consumption and diminished sympathy, I believe, contributes to the broader pattern of women feeling dismissed and ignored by the police. Porn is a pervasive issue that demands a cultural shift to reject its normalisation. As mothers, we have a responsibility to empower our daughters, to value themselves, and seek relationships with men who respect them fully, away from the influence of porn. We must teach our girls that they deserve partners who prioritise genuine connection over porn. We should guide our sons to understand that true strength is found in self-respect and integrity, not in consuming content that objectifies us. Parents, please consider going screen-free for your children. And it's not a popular opinion, I know. So many women on our side don't agree with me on this, but despite our best intentions as parents, research again and again shows that our children as young as 9 are consuming porn online, even if you think they aren't. By setting firm boundaries, which is our duty as parents, we can protect our kids from the scourge of porn. Thank you for listening. Who's next?
I might just quickly say that a couple of weeks ago, because of the way the trans activists have had this sustained campaign of intimidation and harassment, I wrote to the Attorney General. Thank you. Attorney General and the Commissioner of Police, because we believe the Peaceful Assembly Act is being misused. Under the Peaceful Assembly Act, it allows them to continue to harass and intimidate us. So it was quite a lengthy letter that I wrote, and I copied in maybe 6 or 7 MPs as well, and one federal senator, Senator Malcolm Roberts. I've heard nothing from anyone except Senator Roberts, who is federal, not state. So we don't have one state MP that will support us or try and protect us. So I think Malcolm's here today. We're really grateful to have him here. And Malcolm, can I hand it over to you?
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for being here today. I came to support you because of Shay, who's told me over many years, we've known each other for many years, and she's quite involved in so many of the things we're fighting for. But Shay told me of the violence and the lack of enforcement of the law by the police. So, first of all, I want to thank everyone who's here. That's the first thing. That's very, very important. What you're doing is marvellous for the whole of human race. And I mean that sincerely, because this is not just about 30, 40 women. This is about the whole human race. It's a global push to destroy families, to destroy women, to destroy pregnancies, to destroy kids. I'm serious about that. It is real. So thank you to the ladies here. Thank you to Sue Clark for doing what you're doing. We support your letter. Where's Hugh? Did we were going to endorse her letter. Did we send that? We did. Okay. We wrote a letter to the Queensland government endorsing your letter saying we support your initiative. So thank you for that. We'll put more pressure on them.
Thank you.
I also want to thank my wife, who's a woman, of course. But she's not here, but she gave me permission to be here. Sorry?
Does she know what one is?
Yes, my wife does know what a woman is. She knows what a man is too. I also want to thank the Queensland Police, the men and women who are here. I've talked with Hugh, who's a barrister in our office, and he said that the reason it's not being enforced is not because of the police officers, it's because largely, most likely, because of their orders from above. And so you're spot on, Sue, getting to the Attorney General and writing them, forcing them to change the law, or asking them to change the law. But you've already won. Because I'll tell you a story from the Senate. A few years ago, the Greens stood up and carried on with this gender bullshit. Sorry, where's Ellie? Sex bullshit, okay? Yeah. I'm being taught to use the right term, sex. Where am I supposed to stand here, am I? Okay. All right, so we were given instructions by the Greens that we must change the sex bullshit. Or rather, the standard idea of sex to include men who can change to women and women who can change to men. That is absolute bullshit. You cannot change your chromosomes. Sue was born with XX, I was born with XY. I'm a male, you're a female. That's it. You can cut bits off you, I can cut bits off me, but that won't change anything. I can wear a dress, but I'm not a man, I'm not a woman. So that's it. What I'm saying is that I was one of the only ones to speak up in the Senate against the Greens. And the Greens would say I'm a murderer, promoting suicide and all the rest of it. The real issue about suicide is young people who change their sex, sorry, you can't change sex, who go to have a change of sex or gender, and then realise later it cannot be reversed after they were promised it was reversible. Then they commit suicide. We're not the ones causing suicides. The transgender people are the ones causing suicides. The Greens are the ones causing suicides. So just to give you an idea of where it's going, the last time we spoke on this issue in the Senate was about 6 to 12 months ago. I was the first speaker, then a member from the Greens, Senator Nick McKim, and he just went off his face. He was so bad, so stupid in his comments that I posted his video on my website because they're destroying themselves. Then we had 4 more people from the Conservative side speak, not one more Green, so we've changed the scale that way, just by standing up, just like you will by standing up. The Australian and New Zealand Psychologists or Psychiatrists Association, Professional Association, came out last year and said, that gender affirmation is not the treatment for gender dysphoria anymore. That's a remarkable achievement, but it took them 5-10 years to do that. So we are winning. But you're also winning in another sense. When they come here to drown you out, that's an example of control. When they assault you, Leah, that's an example of control, physical control. Always beneath control there is fear. They're terrified of what you're doing. Correct, Gemma? Same in Ireland. Same here, Sue. You are winning. We are winning because they're trying to control you. That shows they're scared of you. So keep going. And we've already discussed that chromosomes can't be changed. Some of them look like, no, they don't even look like women. Some of them have been men and pretend to be women, but that means we have got to stand up to them, and they know it, and that's why they're terrified of you. We also know that from Leah, from Gemma, from Sue, from everyone here, that there's no safe space for women these days, none at all. You can't go into a change room without some turkey, and you'd have to be concerned about their mental health because they're in your space. So it's a serious issue. But as I said, it's not only about us individually, it's about the society. Because the Greens have been pushing this for years. And it's a UN agenda. Family law to smash the family. When you smash the family, you create dependence on government. That's it. The second thing you do is you smash sex identity, blur the differences. And then you promote victimhood. So they're now saying that women are victims. Leah didn't sound like a victim. Sounded like a target, but not a victim. So what they try and do is create dependency. Can you see how they do that? Victimhood and dependency. They smash children. They smash jails so that women now are in jail with men. There's no safe space. So that's what it's really about. It's about safety and security. But I want to thank, where's Sue? Sue, thank you so much for writing that letter. We have backed it up. We will continue to back you up. This is a fundamental thing from the fundamental thing about human society. There are two main structures in human civilization. One is the family. That's fundamental. Without that, the government rules. The other one is the nation state. The UN is trying to defeat both. You're part of a very much larger fight for survival of the human race. And I mean that sincerely. I had no idea 10 years ago when I first started exploring this issue. But thank you so much for what you're doing, and we will continue to support you, Sue.
Thank you.
Who would like to speak? Yep. Yep.
Okay, you can get out.
Can I use the? Yeah, you can. Set it up.
Hey, Dolly.
How cool is your mum?
Would you like your jacket off, Scott? I'm getting a bit warm.
Yeah.
Your mum's so cool.
Turned it off. Sorry. I'm cancelled. I can't work this anymore. It's okay. I think that's not going to work, but that's all right. All right. G'day, beautiful transphobes. My name is Biddy O'Loughlin, but they call me the J.K. Rowling of the Adelaide comedy scene, which is weird because I've never written a book. I'm the mother of a beautiful little girl, a women's rights advocate, and a cancelled everything. I'd been piqued in pregnancy by Kelly J. King, and as a vulnerable single mother, I probably could have excused myself from the fight and kept my head down. But after birthing my darling daughter, I simply could not. I also felt that as an artist, it was my duty to challenge the trans lie that had swept through the industry and our institutions. So just 1 month into motherhood, I took to social media and said, women have babies, men don't. And my world fell apart. My best friend and countless colleagues started to distance themselves from me, I lost much needed work, and I haven't been able to get a grant in as many years as I've insisted that women don't actually have willies. In the 18 months after posting the truth, I retreated to a private Instagram account while I licked my wounds. It wasn't until I met some real-life TERFs that I truly started to heal. And I didn't meet them until 2023 through the Women's Rights Network Australia. Shortly after meeting real-life TERFs, I started telling jokes about blokes in dresses on stage. While I had worked in film and television up until motherhood, that had all dried up, and I fell back onto stand-up comedy, the supposed last bastion of free speech. I invited all the Adelaide TERFs to attend my first transphobic comedy performance, and thank goodness they came. I was very nervous about speaking the truth, convinced it would be my last gig. But thanks to the laughter of the TERFs, the booker let me come back, and I continued to do my little jokes, mocking the absurd, until I was officially blacklisted last year. People have often said to me, Biddy, you can't be an artist and an activist. And to them I say, watch me. Prove you right. The gig that really got my knees knocking was actually the Julia Gillard takedown, when the Adelaide Women's Rights Network Australia ladies and I got our tickets to former Prime Minister's talk and Q&A session, ironically on women's advancement and leadership. We were quite irritated that Ms Gillard had thrown all women under the bus with her amendments to the Sex Discrimination Act, and we planned on putting her on the spot. The TERFs and I walked in what felt like slow motion up North Terrace towards Government House, with the tricky question of what is a woman up our sleeves. Nervous as I was, when I was picked to ask a question, it came out clearly and we exposed Gillard on the world stage. Thanks to Kit Kowalski, the co-founder of the Women's Rights Network Australia, for recording the live stream and releasing the footage before they could delete it. What we achieved that day was highlighting how unprogressive trans allies are, that being a trans ally is something only privileged women can afford to be. In a clumsy attempt to diminish the fact that convicted rapists are being housed in women's prisons, the words "most people won't end up in prison" actually came out of Julia Gillard's mouth. The mastermind behind the takedown is here today, whom I fondly refer to as a Lady TERF, and I think she deserves a round of applause. This is Elizabeth V.G. LeBron. Since coming out as a TERF, I've been asked things like, why do you care so much? Why can't you let them be? What's it to you? And at this point I ask, why don't you care? Putting the feelings of men over the safety of women and children is wrong. Telling children that they could have been born in the wrong body is wrong. I firmly believe that if I had been born 10 years later, I would have caught this social contagion. As a kid, I loathed the thought of puberty. I started dieting at 13 to prevent getting a period. I hated my breast buds and imagined a machine that would suck the new flesh away, leaving me with a flat chest forever. I even wished I had been born a boy. But wishing you had been born a boy is very different from being told you might be a boy. My pre-puberty dieting evolved into bulimia. I was convinced I was overweight when I wasn't. Imagine if the kind thing to do was to affirm that my self-perception was correct, that I was fat. Maybe I had a fat soul. Should I have identified as obese? Thank goodness I was born in the 80s when girls threw up their food instead of cutting off their breasts. Some of my friends admit that they are too scared to speak up, because what the Be Kind Brigade omits from its message is the or else. The kindness of these people is completely conditional on your total fealty to a lie. And if you question anything, they'll take everything you have. Getting cancelled is tough, but women's rights and child safeguarding is a hill I said I would die on. So I had no right to whinge about dying on it. But I did. At one point I was complaining so much I thought I might be trans. It has not been easy, but despite the grief and loss, the cost of truth is a price I'd pay any day over selling my soul to gain the world. While the country's comedians have turned their backs on me, I have found a new family in some of the funniest women I have ever met. I think it's very fitting that Sal Grover called her app Giggle, because that woman never ceases to make me laugh. She says hello. Thank you, every one of you, for being in this fight. TERFs have enriched my life beyond recognition. We will be vindicated because we are on the side of truth, not lies. And we're holding the line for our daughters. They can cancel me all they like. I will always be an artist and I will always speak the truth. Thank you so much, guys.
Who else would like to speak? Annie? It wasn't. Oh.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to Sue and Leah for setting up this platform for women to speak today. Today, I want everyone to hear the name of a Queensland doctor, Dr. Gillian Spencer. Mark the name well, because she is the hero at the centre of an ongoing saga of dangerous clinical suppression in Queensland Health. Dr. Spencer is a senior child and adolescent psychiatrist. She has worked for Queensland Health for over 20 years with a blameless professional record. Yet, in 2022, she ran foul of her employer, the Queensland Children's Hospital. Hospital authorities were unhappy when she raised concerns with her bosses that the hospital was using gender transition treatments for young people who experience gender distress. She shared the worries of many doctors about the treatments, about their safety, about their efficacy, and the capacity of vulnerable children to give truly informed consent to the treatments that might be used on them. The response of the hospital was to issue her with a formal directive to conform to a gender-affirming approach and to refer the troubled kids she was seeing to the hospital's gender clinic. This directive went against her professional judgment, and ultimately Dr. Spencer was accused of being transphobic, and that led to her being suspended from her clinical duties at the hospital. Queensland, let that sink in. We are living in a very dangerous time when experienced doctors can be directed to treat patients in a way that goes against their conscience and medical expertise, and when they can be unjustly stood down over unfounded allegations. But Dr. Spencer is an incredibly brave and committed doctor, and she has continued to be a whistleblower, speaking out in public forums and in the media, warning about the potential harms of gender transition treatments. For that, she has been further disciplined, and in a seemingly final action, she has now been advised that she is not to return to work in the Queensland health system. Perhaps the reason Dr. Spencer has tirelessly defended her right to speak is that she understands the medical scandal unfolding across our nation. That is, young people who experience a disconnect between their born sex and their belief about who they are being made the victims of an appalling, unsafe medical experiment. In these experiments, children are affirmed in their deluded belief that they can change their sex. Then they are given off-label drugs to block the normal progress of puberty and cross-sex hormones to force the body to develop the physical characteristics of the opposite sex. Yet, as every sane person knows, there are no drugs that can actually change a boy into a girl or vice versa. And to date, there is no clear evidence here or from around the world that using these drugs and hormones benefits the mental health of young people the way it is claimed they do. Worse still, evidence grows by the day, suggesting there are serious risks of harm associated with using these unproved medical techniques. The list of potential harms is shocking. It includes a permanent loss of fertility, abnormalities of sperm, cardiovascular complications, increased risk of stroke, memory loss, early onset dementia, early death, lifelong sexual dysfunction and more. Worst of all, these drug treatments are often the gateway for disfiguring, mutilating surgeries that down the track wounded detransitioners severely regret. Faced with a list like this, it's obvious that Dr. Spencer had a duty of care to raise the red flag as she did. She deserves an award for trying to protect kids. Not the unacceptable, censorious treatment she received. She needs to be reinstated, and reinstated urgently so that she can bring some sanity back to the space of gender distress treatment and have kids treated safely and compassionately as she has advocated for. If you want to help get Dr. Spencer reinstated, there are a couple of things you can do. Email the Minister for Health, the Honourable Tom Nichols, and ask him to reverse the decision of Queensland Health to suspend her employer. The other thing you could do is add your name to the nearly 6,000 Queenslanders who have already signed an e-petition for her reinstatement. This petition was sponsored by our very own Woman Up member, Narissa. And thank you, Narissa. And it can be found on the Queensland Parliamentary Petitions website. There's also a QR code floating around on various sheets of paper. Here you can photograph that and it will link you to the petition. Thank you very much.
Who's going next? What about our Irish turf? Come all the way over from Ireland to up here. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Sorry, I didn't see you. Okay. No, she says Australians first.
Already had men. I don't have much to say. I haven't prepared anything. I just wanted to say hello. My name's Edie Wyatt. I'm a bit of a cheeky and mouthy bitch. And that should be okay in Queensland. Today is a bit of an anniversary for me. It's the 13th of July. This day in 1988, I woke up on a cold July morning to hear that my cousin had been found unresponsive on the floor of his mother's house. My cousin's name was Kevin Rosterola, and I loved him very much. He was quite an effeminate sort of young man as a boy, and he had an interesting relation with the Queensland Police. In 1988, a gay man like him was not necessarily treated well in this city. He had frequently come back to our house being beaten up, being detained without a reason. My mother said it was because he had a big mouth, but it wasn't. It was because he was a homosexual. And in 1980s, there was a virus that there was a terrible moral panic about in our country and in our world. And people were frightened of homosexual men. And they frequently were targeted on our streets, not just by police, but by men that the police refused to protect them from. So this was a corruption. In those years, the Queensland Police was corrupted. I don't think any of these boys here or women would deny that. We had an inquiry, 1987, the Four Corners, when the ABC was not corrupted, had a program called the Moonlight State, and that triggered the Fitzgerald inquiry, and we got it sorted out, mostly. We got it cleaned up. But had we honoured the principle of the separation of powers, then the Queensland Police would never have become corrupted. Because what happened was the Queensland Police became an arm of the government, which is against our constitutional integrity of the democratic system that we have. We should not have a police that fights the public. The police are public servants. God bless them, they work for us. They're to protect and serve. And we have been pointing out a corruption in the Queensland government, which has meant the Queensland government has redefined human sex characteristics, which means that women are no longer protected because they can't be defined. So women can't have a safe space, lesbians can't have a single-sex dating space, prisons are no longer single-sex, women are being raped in prisons. So we want to come and say some stuff about this, and at every step we have been thwarted by the government. And please, Queensland Police, fight the corruption that enables you to be used as an arm of the government, because you're not. You serve the people. The police are here to serve the public, and they have to be independent of political narratives. They need to be removed from ACON for a start, who are a political lobby group, who are anti-women, who are anti-lesbian, and who are anti-homosexual. So the kind of panic that we had in the 80s, where we were frightened of young men like my cousin, where we terrorised these men to the point where they took their own lives, and we alienated women for wanting to have single-sex romantic dating spaces. That environment we have again. We are alienating people from our society for believing that sex is real, and embracing people like this Mr. Tickle here, who we can see on their sign, who harasses a woman for wanting to set up a business. So that's all I wanted to say. Just wanted to honour the memory of my cousin today, who I lost so long ago, and I think about all the time. And remember, yeah, mate, women's rights are human rights. They do, I'm afraid, yes. Go fuck yourself.
He probably does. No one else will.
Okay, next one.
No to a trans woman and the man reveals himself.
Hi everyone. I want to talk first about our ABC. You might have heard about a man called Phil Dye. He's a founder of the Declaration of Biological Truth Australia. He submitted a paper to the ABC Ombudsman on the 23rd of June this year. He conducted a media bias analysis of ABC News online articles covering gender identity topics. Out of 70 articles, only 3 were rated as objective. An overall left-leaning bias was revealed, lending credibility to claims of influence by external LGBTQ+ alliances. The ABC is a member of ACON, Pride Inclusion Programs, which requires considerable positive focus to score points and win accolades. And if you want to know more about that, I recommend listening to De-Sexing Society episode on ACON. It's excellent. We'll come back to the ABC after we consider an edifying example. As some are aware here,
Australia's most influential gender-affirming doctor, Michelle Telfer, and the Gender Clinic at the Royal Children's Hospital, Melbourne, have been unmasked as the targets of severe criticism by Family Court Justice Andrew Strum. In April's landmark ruling, which protected a 12-year-old boy, he was gender non-conforming, known as Devon, from puberty blockers, the identities of RCH Melbourne and Dr. Telfer, the former Gender Clinic director, were suppressed by court order. Sorry. I shake don't notice.
You're doing great.
I'm just hoping for this. Okay, thanks. Okay. In early June, Justice Strum upheld the application by the Australian newspaper, arguing that their identities should be made known, as it would serve the public interest and arm parents with vital information. It was front-page news for The Australian, which offered comprehensive coverage, including an editorial. Having previously showcased Telfer and paediatric medical transition, the national broadcaster, our ABC, have had nothing to say about this significant development. It would be difficult to go from glowing praise to these mere facts. Phil Dye's study of ABC News bias would no doubt categorise this silence as bias by omission. Justice Strum found that the RCH Gender Clinic had failed to undertake a comprehensive assessment of Devon. It had made a diagnosis only belatedly and with a view to the imminent court trial, and offered only one treatment, puberty blockers, as the first step on a lifelong path of medicalisation. The judge noted Dr. Telfer's claim that the RCH Gender Clinic had a clinical evaluation program and a longitudinal cohort study established in 2017, which aims to follow up and assess clinical outcomes for 600 patients and families over 20 years. However, in cross-examination, Dr. Telfer conceded that this study is not a clinical trial and there are significant issues with follow-up into adulthood. Justice Strum described as concerning the evidence from a medical witness that no children's gender clinic has produced any long-term data on outcomes of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormone treatments. The RCH Melbourne Gender Clinic has not produced any long-term data on any of the patients they've treated.
Shame on them.
The judge criticised Dr. Telfer for allowing her self-declared role as an advocate for trans rights to trump her duty as an objective expert witness in the case. He agreed with the view of the independent children's lawyer that Dr. Telfer's commentary on England's Cass review was misleading or omitted findings and material that detracted from her opinion and was also at odds with her obligations as an expert witness. He noted that Dr. Telfer was unable to point to any empirical or substantive basis for her opinion that a child's gender identity is immutable and impervious to external influence. He was critical of the RCH Gender Clinic, which he concluded did not offer any alternative to puberty blockers, and its oddly binary treatment guideline, which was authored by Dr. Telfer. Justice Strum also expressed concern about the basis of RCH Melbourne's practices, and he stated, If gender identity in children is not immutable, and the overwhelming evidence from research is that it is not, why would we put primary school children on a pathway to irreversible modifications of their sex characteristics? The naming of Michelle Telfer as the target of strong judicial criticism has led to a complaint against her lodged in mid-June with the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, APRA, by a concerned citizen. The complaint cites alleged breaches of professional standards, potential professional misconduct, and failure to provide sufficient informed consent to parents and patients. Testimony raised important questions about whether minors and their guardians were given a complete and balanced explanation of risks and benefits, long-term uncertainty, including on bone development, fertility, and cognitive impact. We await a balanced reporting on this development from the ABC. In other news from the gender review world, a review of the guidelines for treating minors with gender dysphoria has commenced via the National Health and Medical Research Council, the NHMRC. They are administering $5 million in public funding in response to Minister for Health Mark Butler's January request for a comprehensive review and the development of new national guidelines. The grant was awarded to the Australian Research Consortium for Transgender Youth and Children. The investigative team includes some familiar names. The one that stands out to me is Dr. Michelle Telfer, advocate for gender affirming care and first author of the 2018 contentious guidelines. And for more on that, I recommend reading Bernard Lane's Gender Clinic News, where a lot of this information has been, I've used it here. So he pointed out that there are a number of other activists and researchers from gender clinics on this investigative committee. So the consortium reviewing outcomes and guidelines includes 4 of the authors of the contentious treatment guideline, the very one that they are to submit to comprehensive and no doubt objective evaluation. Will our ABC report on that, or will bias by omission continue unaddressed? The public interest be damned.
Nice one.
Okay, I guess we'll go with the Irish turf.
I knew that review of the guidelines was happening. So when did they appoint you?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Well, the reason I've introduced myself, my name is Gemma, by the way, is because that was a greeting that I heard a couple of years ago on a flight from Rome to Dublin. And it was said in a very normal way by their steward. And my friend next to me, who knows I'm a TERF, couldn't help and resist saying, "Jesus, Gemma, are they allowed to say that?" And I said, of course I burst out laughing. And I said, "Well, she said it, and nobody shouted bigot or turf or homophobe or transphobe or whatever. So for that few seconds, a few minutes, I realised, you know what, a little bit of normality in the cesspit of nonsense that we have to put up with. And it's bringing me on to, I just want to just briefly talk about the importance of preferred pronouns, or compelled speech as I call it. I want to tell you about the fantastic tweet that Amy Souza put out last month. Why do I critique preferred pronouns? Using preferred pronouns is not benign nor kind. It has dangerous real-world consequences. The worst of which is it disrupts kids' ability to respond to their instincts. Every animal on the planet teaches their young to be more and more honed to their adaptive instincts. Humans are the only animal that teaches their instincts to placate strangers, or to disregard their instincts, I should say. Safeguarding expert Gavin de Becker, in his book Protecting the Gift, about child safeguarding, advises parents to help their kids practice trusting their instincts. Transgender ideology does the opposite. It introduces cognitive disruptions and tells kids that they can't trust the authority of their own direct perceptions of the world around them. This is a safeguarding failure on a massive scale. So the reason I've alluded to this post on X is because I've experienced in real life, unfortunately, from fellow gays and lesbians who have adopted this preferred pronouns crap, and where I've been compelled to use wrong sex pronouns for delusional men. So if I've experienced it and I've been able to repel it because, hello, I'm an adult human female with a brain, think about the consequences for our young children and how they, as Amy Souza points out, the disruption to their minds. So in social settings, I know you have challenges in work settings, but in social settings, do not think you're being kind if somebody turns around and says, well, I have a trans friend here and I use she, her pronouns. Don't buy into it. He's a he. Full stop. Thank you for listening.
Okay, where's Drew? Drew, do you want to come?
G'day everyone, my name's Drew Hutton. I'm a Green, and not only am I my politics green, but I'm actually the founder of the Greens here in Queensland, and Bob Brown and I founded the Greens in Australia. But I'm an expelled Green. I've just been expelled from the Greens, and my crime was that I put a couple of Facebook posts on, and I got a whole lot of, I was defending the convener of the Victorian Greens who'd been sacked for suggesting that the Victorian Greens should look at the issues about whether or not biological males who identified as females should have access to women's only spaces like toilets and change rooms and refuges and so on. She wasn't saying they should, she was just saying this is something we should look at. So I said, well, that's ridiculous that she should be expelled, she should be sacked. And this is an issue of free speech, which the Greens are supposed to stand for. Anyway, I got a whole lot of comments on my Facebook posts on both sides of the argument, and a little while later I got a complaint against me, and the committee that was looking into the complaint, little committee of the Greens, I call them the Committee of Public Safety, after the French Revolution, the committee that guillotined people. And that committee decided that I had to delete all of the comments on my Facebook post that said biological men are biological males and women are biological females. That's all that they said. And I didn't take a stand at this stage. I was just a burnt out retired old greenie living up on the Sunshine Coast. And I didn't even know what a transphobe was. And, and all of a sudden I'm one of them. And they suspended, they said you're suspended until you delete those comments. Well, I said I believe in free speech. And those comments were credible. You know, for 2 million years we've actually believed that men are biological males and women are biological females. Stood us instead for 2 million years. I don't see why it should be banned now. So anyway, they said, well, you're suspended. And I stayed suspended for about the next 20 months. And after that, I thought, this is just a bit much, you know, a permanent suspension. So I said, you can't have a permanent suspension. It's a contradiction in terms. No, so this little Committee of Public Safety said, well, no, you're right there. We're going to expel you. So I actually got expelled for not censoring other people's comments on Facebook. That was my crime. And so anyway, I thought this is pretty outrageous. You know, when I founded the Greens here in Queensland, and Bob Brown and I, you know, worked so hard to found the Australian Greens, there were 4 key principles to green politics, and they were ecological sustainability, social justice, democracy and non-violence. Well, they just knocked democracy out of the playing field. They don't believe in free speech, and free speech is at the core of democracy. If you can't get up and say what you believe in, as long as it's not defamatory or you're not suggesting violence, then you should be free to say whatever you like. And so they just said democracy's out. And by the way, they've said no debate. There is to be no debate anywhere in the Greens on this issue. And the next step is saying, well, if you can't have no debate on that, well, you can't debate any other issue either, especially if some sensitive minority is going to be offended by it. So democracy's out. Non-violence. Non-violence is a key part of my whole activist life. For 50 years I've been an activist. I have never committed violence, I've never advocated violence, and I've never stood with anybody who did believe in violence. And over here, last time I spoke, we had a stall with a whole lot of young activists who were trying to disrupt what was going on here. If the police hadn't been there, quite courageously actually, stopping them, they would have come over here and physically tried to disrupt us, as they have in other states at other times. And under that stall that they were under had the local Greens member of the Brisbane City Council all over it. So the Greens have participated in these sorts of violent attempts to stop other people like yourselves, from speaking publicly on this issue. So democracy is going out the window, non-violence is going out the window of the Greens that I was a part of forming and was the leading spokesperson in this state for 20 years. And they are so caught up with this whole identity politics obsession, that ecological sustainability is no longer their prime consideration. Their prime consideration is the welfare of particular minorities, particular identity groups. Now, I've got nothing against identity groups. I've got nothing against trans people. I believe that all people should have rights. But when that is the only issue at a time in human history, when the mission of the Greens should be about helping the whole process towards ecological sustainability, for taking on climate change, for taking on the terrible destruction of biodiversity that's going on this planet. That's our mission. Our mission is not to take up the rights. Well, it's only a very small part of our concern to take up the rights of various identities, especially when that involves suppressing the freedom of speech of those people who want to debate such issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait on. I want someone to come and stand.
Do you want to put the microphone in the...
Can you see it? Thank you. It's an honour and a privilege to stand before such wonderful TERFs. And for those of you that are transphobes, obviously not you, sir, even though you're called a transphobe from your wonderful ex-party. I want to talk about my peaking, my experience in bringing down a feminist icon with Video Lachlan, and that's all right, thank you.
It's just gone red. Yeah, it's not working.
Hello. Right. Yeah. So it's an honour and privilege to be here today amongst wonderful transphobes and TERFs. And for those walking past, women don't have willies. I peaked I never peaked because I never believed and I never had sympathy and I never was kind and I will never be kind. I peaked over periods. And when our own Bruce Jenner, Catherine McGregor, came out and was lauded as a hero and a wonderful woman who likes wearing pearls, might add I've got my Tiffany pearls on today and I am a pearl clutcher and I'm very proud to be one. So I never peaked, I never believed, I never had sympathy and I never will. In 2023, I attended the Let Women Speak rally. I did not touch it. It's flashing red. Is there a battery? No? Yeah, I know, but it's flashing red. All right, so in 2023, I attended the Adelaide Let Women Speak rally, and I will say to the police here, who did not do their job at the rally last month, that heckler's veto does not mean freedom of speech. So you're not doing your job. Brief up. You can talk about that. I'm not touching it.
Oh, it's not mine. I don't know how to.
Is there another one?
I don't have it.
Maybe I'm breaking it with talking so loud.
Is it recharged or is it the battery?
Flopped over.
Okay, the transphobes, we're obviously being attacked by the spirit of trans. And I can't identify as a microphone, so. Yeah, but it's important for the police to hear what I want to say.
Hold on, we'll have it in a minute. Okay, one more time.
Biddy, or you want to film all this as well?
Oh, I stopped and started, I just stopped again.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Wasting.
Yeah, some good clips you can get from that.
Yes.
Anyway.
What, the ad-libbing?
Yeah.
Or not?
When the mic was on, you had to...
Oh, good, yeah. See, it's because I've got the best speech, so it's the trans attacking me.
I know, I was excited.
Timing's everything, though.
What was that, sorry?
You were so passionate. I was like,
Too passionate.
No, you
All right, we're on. Thank you. Thank you to the wonderful transphobes for fixing that. So 2023, I attended the Let Women Speak rally in Adelaide, at which the police were on the Parliament steps and did stand between the rabid mob of trans and their trans maidens. And I said to them at that time, you don't have the heckler's veto. And the police actually, after about 20 minutes maybe, moved the protesters on with a large mount of white horses. So they did the right thing. And I say to the police here, brief up to your superintendents, brief up to the commissioner. You have influence over this, unless it is as Leah said at the beginning, unless you are actually true believers and you think that as a male, if you put on a dress, you've got a right to search a prisoner if she's female. Good luck to you, mate. In 2023, after the Let Women Speak rally, I had the honour of meeting Biddy O'Loughlin. I joined WRNA, Women's Rights Network Australia, and I, like Biddy, met real TERFs. And we did a street activism with WRNA during the World Soccer, handing out flyers, etc. Anyway, I lived near the South Australian Government House, and I saw that our governor, South Australian Governor Frances Adamson, was holding an event which she billed as women's advancement. And I thought I'd like to talk to Frances Adamson about women's advancement, because the last time I'd seen Frances Adamson talking was when she was the Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Trade, and she was telling a large conference hall about the work that her department was doing for women in the Pacific. And the big thing that they had feedback about from the women in the Pacific was about period issues and about sanitary hygiene. That's the last thing that I heard from Frances Adamson. And she invited our first and only female Prime Minister, Julie Gillard, to talk about women's advancement. She invited young girls, Year 12 girls, to sit in the front row to hear our first and only female Prime Minister wax lyrical about what a wonderful feminist icon she is. I organised for Biddy and a few other women to attend this women's advancement talk because I and the TERFs wanted to ask Julie Gillard some pointed questions about her views about women's advancement. And we had 5 questions. Biddy's right, we walked slowly down North Terrace like we're in a movie. We separated before we went into the governor's hall, because I thought if we sat together, as soon as Biddy asked her question, that was it. They weren't coming back anywhere near Biddy. So I was at the back, she was at the front, we had a few other TERFs sprinkled around. We had 5 questions for Miss Gillard on that day, and I'll just highlight them. Obviously, we had the infamous one that went viral around the world by Biddy. What is a woman? And do you agree with Queensland's Attorney General and Minister for Women, Sharon Fetterman, that trans women are women? And with the UK leader of the Labor Party, Sir Keir Starmer, that some women have a penis. And for those of you that haven't seen her 4-minute waffle answer, it's here. And as Edie pointed out, our first and only female Prime Minister actually said that most people won't be in prison. Most people won't play elite sport. So who cares about the women in a prison with a rapist and a pedophile? Really? It's only a couple. Who cares about the Aboriginal women in the Western Australian prisons that can't say anything about the men that are sharing their facilities? It is disgusting. The second question, which I had the privilege of asking Ms. Gillard, was whether, under her government, obviously we probably all know here, the meaning of biological sex was changed in the Sex Discrimination Act, and she removed women's rights. And I asked her that because of her amendments, biological males were identifying into women's spaces, prisons, rape shelters, sports, etc. And I asked her 10 years on, and given her misogyny speech, did she regret removing women and girls' sex-based rights? And does she think that the Act should be amended so that the girls, the 16-year-old girls in this room, don't have to play against boys in sports and share facilities? And 4 minutes later, she started with, I'm going to answer your question, but it's a gotcha question. So she didn't answer the question. But I think implicitly, perhaps she did. Unfortunately, we couldn't go on to the other 3 questions we had. I had a question about whether she supported men putting their nipples into babies' mouths and feeding them a chemical goo. I asked them if she thought that lesbians should be allowed to meet without men being present. Sorry, we would have asked her. And I asked her another question about her misogyny speech. Yes. Do you think the treatment of women being called chest feeders, being called bleeders, being called birthing people is misogyny, given your misogyny speech? But unfortunately, we didn't ask those 3 questions, but I do think they were rippers of questions. I drafted them, so. Francis Adamson intervened as a blocking measure to stop Julia Gillard answering my question, saying, you've answered that question. She hadn't answered the question, so we'll move on. So Francis Adamson showed that the girls in that room and the women in that room, that answering questions about the removal of women's and girls' rights was not appropriate. Biddy's question went worldwide. Her response went worldwide. It went worldwide on the Daily Mail UK, it went into the USA, and it got printed in the Spectator, Spike, Blaze, whole lot of media, but not in the mainstream media. We have some comfort that some of the conservative media are now covering this issue, but the Australian last year did one of those wonderful Saturday paper 2-page editorial interviews where it waxed lyrical about how wonderful Julia Gillard was and didn't mention her fall from grace as a feminist icon in this glowing article. Shame on the media. Shame on your cowardice because you know it's wrong. Say what you know to be true. Stand up for women and girls' rights, you shameful people. Julia Gillard said of me and Biddy O'Loughlin, and I quote, I will not be lectured about misogyny as sexism by these women. Not now, not ever. We say to you, our first and only Prime Minister, traitor to her sex, betrayer of women and girls, that we will not be lectured by you on misogyny and sexism. Not now, not ever. Thank you.
Oh, that's yours, sorry. We're going to have to close now because we've only got this space until 11:45, but I'm going to hand it over to Leah to do her famous closings.
Thank you everybody for coming, it's been amazing. Thank you to everyone who's spoken and just turning up to support. Who would have thought that this would be so triggering? Women do not have penises. Men cannot be women, and we shouldn't need a government to tell us that. We all know it. Our girls do not deserve to have every female space taken away from them. When I take my daughter swimming, I deserve the right to know that there's no bloke in the changing room. And if I put up a fight, to know that I'm not going to be the one ejected from that establishment. These are basic human rights, and we will gather here every month to say these basic things until we don't need to anymore. And thank you to every TERF that has turned up to speak, and let's have a cheer for the TERFs.
Cheer for Leah.
Thank you. See you next month.
Just want to thank Malcolm for coming out today. You're a TERF. And also Drew as well. It's good to see 2 political parties that are standing together on this one issue. So thank you everyone.
Woo! Bye everybody, thank you for watching.